Welcome to the GFY Podcast, a podcast by healthcare professionals providing insight on how to navigate your health so that you can go fix yourself. The GFY Podcast is hosted by Mike Bruno, a chiropractor and athletic trainer, and me, Michael Stant, an athletic trainer and certified strength conditioning specialist. Although we are healthcare providers, we are not your healthcare provider. We will discuss general health interventions in this podcast, but you should not take that as health advice that works in every situation. Before doing anything on your own or making any lifestyle changes, please consult with your own physician. This podcast and views from this podcast are separate from our full-time jobs and our own opinions. If you're enjoying the GFY Podcast, please leave us a review on your listening platform and or subscribe to our podcast at YouTube. Links to our show can be found in the show notes on any platform that you are listening to. So, real quick, I've been a dad for 1 year. JK, 1 week. That's how long it feels, though.
Was that on purpose?
No.
Oh my goodness. Complete side note, but similar vibe was I'm now married, 2 months, 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
And Erica was at the gym. My office is in working out. And a new client came in and I was like, oh, I was looking at him and I was like, this is my fiance, Erica. And I pointed to her and his face, he went white as a ghost. And I was like, what could that face possibly be?
Yeah.
I turned to her and she's giving me the meanest mug. She's like, I'm your wife, not your fiance anymore. And I was like, my bad.
The transition's tough.
Yeah, because fiance I've been saying, 2 years or so?
Yeah.
But hey,
yeah.
We're happy.
Exactly. And 1 week in, I could tell you how my morning started. You wake up middle of the night, the baby feeds, you go back to sleep, you wake up, you change the diaper. He peed on our bed because we decided to change him on our bed. And then as you're changing, he pees everywhere. He's a boy. So it's just, there's no control. So my morning started with having to wash our sheets.
Hey, at least you're not peeing in the bed anymore, right?
No comment. Oh man. So a couple housekeeping things too with all the news and everything going on. So as we've talked about before, I'll have a solo quote unquote episode where I just coming out on Saturdays where I just kind of review a trending topic going on. So there'll actually already be, by the time this podcast gets posted, there'll already be an episode out. Comes out this upcoming Saturday. We're recording
when the Jonas Brothers, they're still the Jonas Brothers, but Nick Jonas also has his kid solo album.
Exactly. That's what
I'm in full support. There's that drama here.
Yeah. And so it's going to be quick. They're 10 to 15 minutes. It's really me just deep diving on something that is maybe in the news. That's that's an interesting health trend going on right now. Let's see if there's any validity to it.
Love it.
So yeah, there's that. They're part of it with being a new parent. We'll start having a blog post that comes out about kind of me and my wife, how our journey's going being parents. So I can tell you 1 week in, it's been interesting. Maybe some people learn from it. Maybe some people who are already parents reflect on it and go, oh yeah, I remember when we dealt with XYZ. So not that we're perfect parents. We're along for the journey for sure.
Out along the way.
Yep. We're trying to, figuring it out along the way for sure. I'll probably look at research while I'll probably fact check Courtney most of the time.
Only you.
Yeah.
The mother who definitely has done her research is actually, according to the first.
Yeah. The mother who's works with kids is a physical therapist.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So we're gonna go ahead, get started. So we're talking money. Money, as Cardi B would say.
I can't believe you spoiled it. I was gonna say, if anyone knows what we're trying to encourage tonight, please let us know.
Damn it. Sorry.
You blew it.
So as we approach New Year's, it's where, you're hitting New Year's, you got new goals. Where should your money go? And so I'm gonna bring up some research first for Bruno and kind of get his input on it. And some of it's recent. So there's actually a study, 2021, where it looked at healthcare costs later in life, depending on how physically active you were earlier on. Okay. So in the general gist is that the more physically active you are earlier in life, you're going to save more money annually on healthcare costs. It was the the people that were most active or who started being active in early adulthood saved $1,874 average annually on healthcare costs as they continue to age. Now, there's also the people that didn't get in till later in life. They say they went middle age and say, I got to start now. They kind of saved closer around to somewhere between $800 to $1,300 annually. Still nothing to sniff at, That's, to me, that's less than a gym membership cost. So some stuff to really look at. And then for adults that actually decreased activity through adulthood, so think about people that were super active early on, 30s, 40s, and then they kind of just fell off. They still had some benefits, not as much. Those that decreased activity only saved $200 through adulthood. So,
all right, there's two like isms I like in this situation where investing in the bank of tomorrow. I'm sure you've heard that one. So it's you like when you invest in your own health, or sorry, you are going to invest in your health at some point. The question is just going to be when and how much.
Yep.
So a small gym membership today is inconsequential compared to later on down the road, let's say ignoring your health for 20 years and then needing hip replacements or knee surgery or whatever. So it's, do you want to solve the small problem now? Or are you willing to take the risk that you're going to much more likely need to solve a bigger problem in the future?
So the common investing advice, switching to the finance side of it, it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market, right? So yeah, very common. Saying, yeah. So it's, hey, the longer you're doing it for, the more likely you're going to be better off. And
it's literally compound interest.
Yeah, it is compounding interest.
So I have clients who, like you said, are basically just starting their health journey, we'll call it, in their 40s and 50s. And they might have been active as kids, taking a lot of time off and getting back into it. When we get into things that require coordination and agility and jumping and stuff, they are super hesitant and nervous because they're I haven't done this in so long. But the people who, let's say, were high school athletes, college athletes, they're much more that is somewhere in their nervous system. And now where it's hey, they haven't had to do that for so long. And now we're creating an environment where they have to do it again. Gotta knock the rust off a little bit, but they are much more adaptive in that situation versus someone who's never done it before. It's just the ramp up period, right? So the person who's never done it before is going to take a different path, can still get there, but the people who have those prior investments, we'll call them, are much better off.
Yeah. And I also, and I kind of like the fact that, all right, there's also the even if you get started later, there's still cost savings. There's also a never too late standpoint.
It is never too late to invest in yourself health wise.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep. Kind of going off that too. So if you're physically inactive, you're gonna end up, probably more long-term health consequences. That's gonna that's gonna cost you a lot of money. And there's studies out there. There's actually a 2010 Canadian study. Our neighbors to the north. Those who are, but I don't know. We have a big German following. Those
number one health podcast in all of German speaking countries, except for Germany. What movie is that from? You don't know. Assuming if you can name that movie, I will be so impressed.
Those who are physically inactive, it was associated with increased hospitalizations and longer length of stays. So, that is directly going to cost you more money.
Yeah, there's honestly, I won't give any context as to who this person is, but I had a conversation where their genuine thought process in their 60s, they were my idea of physical activity is going and walking around the mall, because if I do any form of actual exercise, my heart rate goes up and that scares me. And I was what a crazy way to look at the world, right? So individual has had prior knee replacement, hip replacement, very sedentary right now. And like we said on last week's episode, like walking is huge. Walking is a no-brainer. We should all be getting our steps in, right? Like that is science. That aside, could you imagine looking at the world where like bringing your heart rate up in any capacity is like, no.
Yeah, and like especially not like we're young, healthy people in general. Like I don't think I can think about that ever. Like I don't think I ever will, unless I experience some event that causes me to have to start thinking about it. But yeah, I can't.
So yeah,
I
it's
can't think
nuts.
about it. That's not
It's
how.
nuts, right?
Yeah, that's just some like. Unfortunately, that's just some backwards thinking. Like I actually experienced that talking to someone one day where they were like, "You got to be careful about lifting. Like, you could like have a heart." I'm like, first off, I'm not the meathead lifter that is like that has like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy because I've done so much Valsalva and like in lifting 800 pounds. Like that's not me.
Mr. Nerd, slow down.
Sorry, enlarged heart.
You're talking about. But yeah, to your point is like th- everything as far as like health, pain, there's always a trade-off, right? So in your point, it's like, hey, lifting weights is increasing your risk at injury. It's like if you're doing it like a jackass, maybe. Um, but if you work out smartly, I would argue it's decreasing your risk over increasing because you're doing stuff that's like safe, efficient, enjoyable, all that stuff that we always talk about. And what you're actually doing is decreasing your injury risk over time because you are getting better at all that stuff. So if and when you encounter something in the real world where you have to move a fridge for your friend or like do something like weird and active, it's like you are so prepared and confident based on all of your training. It's literally like you got to train,
Yeah,
and practice how you play, like whatever the ism is. If you, and that's why I'm going tangent here. You see all these old people like old people fall, fracture their hip, don't make it out of the hospital,
yeah,
like because they get sick in the hospital and their body's not able to bounce back. Usually what it is that, I mean, you can tell me the research on this, but it's not that they stepped off a curb and they fell and the fall broke their hip. It's just the force of stepping off the curb broke their hip, and that's what caused them to fall. So they're so
oh,
osteoporotic
yeah,
that
yeah,
their
yeah.
bones are so brittle that they can't take the force, the impact of stepping off a curb. That breaks a hip, that makes them fall. And then all the other like infectious disease and all that stuff in the hospital creates an environment where unfortunately like some of them like literally don't make it out alive.
Yep.
And it's like how much of that could have been avoided if you've just been, and we're not saying go meathead, but just like a general strength program that adapts as you age and doing it smart and efficiently towards your goals literally can save your life. Like no exaggeration.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's very true. I think it's more of a Goldilocks approach with all physical activity, and even in some of this research on the money return,
Mhm.
like the people that were super extreme from a money saving standpoint, they were actually more in that 1,300 $1,400 range. They weren't as close to saving $1,800, right? So, like that the people that are running, probably the people that are running ultras and Ironmans and things like that, like that's a lot of beating on the body. Like your body may not be recovering as well. Like they're going to get a bunch of benefit from it for
Oh,
sure, but
yeah.
like they're going to have a lot of pains down the road and wear and tear of cartilage and things like that.
It, the yes, when you're going to the extreme, like everyone can think of like the crazy CrossFitter, like the avid runner and all that. And overuse is a fear for people where it's like, hey, I'm overusing this. But those people who build up that engine, so to speak, that capacity, are so good at what they do. Like it's going to take a lot to make them do overuse type stuff.
Yeah.
So if they're the conversation I have with those people, we call them like type A, like driver personalities. It's, hey, if your workouts look like this, like most people's workouts look like this, yours look like this, cool, right? That means all your recovery and all that stuff has to match.
Yeah.
Because where that disconnect falls is like if you train like that, but you recover like this, meaning like your sleep's terrible, your nutrition's terrible, like hydration, whatever you want to say, all your recovery methods, like this gap is where injury happens. So
Yeah.
like that's the conversation you have to have with those people because like, like if you want to train like an Olympic athlete, go nuts. It just has to look a certain way. So you're not, getting like all the bad stuff like surgeries and pain and all that.
Yeah. So moving on, I want to look at incomes for people who are physically active or physically inactive. So, yep, there's actually research on this as well. So there's research. They looked at how quote unquote mobile people are and their incomes over time, and they had different levels of like how active people were. For every fitness level lost, there was a decrease of $3,410 in household income. Okay,
So they're
so
saying being physically or not, the less physically active you are, the more that impacts your income.
correct. The less physically active you are, the less money you make, according to this research study.
Wow.
Okay. And then it also goes about people who stopped being physically active compared to those who continued to be active. They made $6,500 less annually. And then if they were also physically inactive, they were less likely to still be working. So that means,
That's true.
right? So pretty much what they end up doing, they followed people along for 10 years. And so, right. So not only are they making less, they're also not working anymore. So that means, let's say you were making 80,000 a year, you're not seeing that 80,000 a year coming to you on an annual basis anymore.
Yeah.
So now it becomes a compounding effect in the opposite direction.
Yeah. I mean, something I always say is like every decision that you are faced with, like you are always going to be making a decision that is going to like bring you either towards your goals or away from your goals. Like it might not feel like it now. That's why you have to have awareness around what the real problem is, right? But it's like, hey, I'm not going to work out today. Like that's a choice. Either I'm not going to work out today because I'm feeling lazy and it's too cold outside, right? Like maybe that's not a good choice for your overall goals, but it's like, hey, I trained really hard the past couple of days. My body's really beat up. Like I need a day to recover. Like that's a choice towards your goals, right? So it all depends on the context of like how you're having the conversation with yourself. And I feel like we always keep coming back to like the minimal effective dose.
Yeah.
So like that will constantly, if you progressive overload for, I don't know if we've ever defined that on here, but right. It's like,
Like,
hey, you start progressive overload is like you start where you're comfortable. Let's just say you can do 5 push-ups, right? Over time, 5 push-ups become easier. Then you can progress to 10, 20, 30, 40. My uncle asked me this question maybe last summer and started off doing 10 push-ups every morning. That was his starting point. He was either late 60s or early 70s at that point. He just told me a story like this past a couple weeks ago. He was in Colorado at a wedding, and everyone was talking about how much push-ups they can do. In his tuxedo, he dropped into 50 unbroken push-ups.
love that. And like, and how old is he? 60s, 70s, and he didn't start till night. Like,
Yeah, so he went from like struggling to do 10 to being consistent. And he's not like going Arnold Schwarzenegger at the gym, but he went from doing 10 every day. That was his starting point to now being able to do 50 in the course of a year because he was consistent with his minimal effective dose. He jumped when 10 felt good. He moved to 15 to 20 to all over time. And now he was able to like far exceed his expectations. So it all stacks up. That idea of compounding interest I really like that.
yeah, the compound interest. I love money. Money. All right. So the next topic was, does being more physically fit lead to being promoted? Right. So there's no actual direct research on it. So
I mean, like,
but
sure,
right, but what are the benefits of physical activity, right? There's cognitive benefits. It makes people higher more productivity at work because they're able to think more clearer. There's improved memory. So there's a lot of the presets to being promoted, essentially. So
yeah. I mean, like, do you want a fat trainer? No. But are there people who are overweight and really good at training people? Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
But I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying people with desk jobs. Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
are you being physically active? Right? You do your stuff in the morning, or like we've talked about exercise snacks before, doing you run up the steps real quick. All that's been shown to let you to be more productive. So, in theory, if you're more productive, you get noticed. Hey, maybe you get this promotion at work.
And it also speaks to the type of person that you are. So you can say like, yeah, I'm a guy who's disciplined, right? But if you look like a fat slob, how
Yeah.
disciplined are you? right? Compared to the guy who's shredded, it's like he's probably like he has to go to work, same punch in, punch out as you, but he's getting it in somewhere, whether it's before lunch break, after
Yeah.
whatever he's doing. Like he is clearly making that same conversation. He is making the active choice to go towards being physically fit. Those are his goals, right?
Yeah.
You're the other person, right? They could be like choosing work over their body, which is I hear that all the time, where it shouldn't be like a this or that. You shouldn't be have to choose work or physical activity. You should have it set up in a way where if you're trying to exceed at work, the physical activity is going to help you in that direction.
Yeah.
It's create this.
I'm a big, I should have my cake and eat it too, right? Like, why not?
Yes, but
Uh,
cake's probably a bad analogy.
bad analogy.
I want to cook my steak and eat it too. Yeah.
Yes, yes, but I'm not a big red meat guy, so I should be able to have my tuna and eat it too.
Tilapia.
Tilapia.
Um, yeah, but absolutely. Like there is a world where you can crush work and forget about physical activity. There's a world where you can crush physical activity, forget about work. But there is also a world where you can do both really, really well.
Yeah, for sure. So now we're gonna get nitty gritty into like people that, all right, they're in pain and now they got to start going somewhere and they got to pay for it, right? So we're gonna talk about insurance. A lot of people probably get their insurance through their healthcare, or I'm sorry, through their work.
Mhm.
And so typical copays for physical therapy, you can tell me what it is for chiropractors. I just assume physical therapy becomes a referral more times than none.
Mhm.
Um, so it's about $25 to $50 per copay for an insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you have an injury and you get prescribed to go 3 times a week for 12 weeks
Mhm.
uh, to rehab your knee. You
Mhm.
have a muscle strain. So if you're paying $50 at every visit for 3 times a week for 12 weeks, that's $1,800.
Mhm.
And if you go there and all you do are clamshells and you get no follow up care unless you show up there
Mhm.
and you don't get better, that was $1,800 pissed down the drain,
Mhm.
right? Um, so, right, not to say we're better than that, but like, right, it's think about where your money's going to go, especially from an insurance standpoint. Like, if you realize that maybe you're not getting the personalized care that you should, there's probably plenty of people at $1,800 that can help you be more on your way in a couple weeks, as opposed to 12 weeks as well.
Oh, 100%. The two things that you can spend are your time and your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that conversation with people all the time. Or honestly, clients tell me this is like I went to you call them like the mill, right? Where it's like
Yep.
everyone's doing the same thing. It's very cookie cutter. They're like, I've done 3, 4, 5 rounds of that. And every time I go in, I'm doing the same thing as the guy next to me, even though they're 60 and I'm 30 and like I want to play sports and they just want to be able to like go for a walk. Our goals are so different, our demographics so different, but we have the same 3 exercises every time, right? It's okay. If you think like that stuff will get you there to where you want to be, then it's like everyone's always going to choose the cheaper option. If you just need a car to go down the street, right? It's like, does it matter if it's a Honda or Ferrari? I would argue no, right? But if you're trying to be a drag racer, right, you're gonna want the Ferrari. So the important thing to know is like A, where you're starting and B, where you want to go and getting the literally the proper vehicle to get you there. Because for the most part, like you said, if you're gonna waste all that money like with someone like rubbing your back and like doing the bare minimum there because they're crunched for time because they have 500 people to see that day, you're not going to get the personalized care that you need to not only get the baseline, but then excel past baseline. So, what like people who come in to see me, the big difference is they're like, hey, like they barely got me to baseline. And even if I like baseline isn't my goal, like I want to get far beyond baseline, right? So, we're focused on being able to make sure we identify the real problem. So it's we're not wasting anybody's time and we want to know what their true goal is. So like after you get out of pain, like pain getting out of pain is just a starting point. So we get out of pain, then it's like, okay, what happens after that? I want to run. I want to lift this. I want to do that. Great. Like you will not leave our office until we are doing that confidently here. And that when people experience, you call it like the dark side, the
Mhm.
other thing, they're like, huh, I didn't know this existed. So like that for the right client is worth the investment.
And I'm gonna also say this because so I do some of this stuff at my full-time job where all right, so I talk about like how much I save people money wise based on the services I provide, but then I also talk about time savings. And so, right, like a typical doctor's appointment in the research says by the time you like call, set up the appointment, get there, fill out all the paperwork, that alone is going to be 2 hours of your time. And then, each for like PT or for you, each follow up is at least, probably an hour of time. Well, that's like your time and how much money do you value your time, right? What is your hourly rate for what you're working and think about it from that standpoint. So like for me, because I'm in a high school, if a parent has to take off of work
Mhm,
because they got to bring their kid to physical therapy. But if
mhm.
I can stop that, I can kind of say, hey, I saved you this amount of money based on
Yeah.
hours of time and hours of you being able to work and make money.
Yeah.
So like that's another way to think about it where you can get more efficient if you can find the right place to go to.
I mean, that's why like food delivery exists, right?
Yeah,
So it's like, is it cheaper to go get in your car, go pick the thing up and come back? It always is, right?
it
But
always
it's
is.
like,
Yeah.
is it more like what can you accomplish in the like the hour, right? Of
Mhm.
like just like ordering delivery for the food to show up. Like you can clean your house, you can like there's a lot of things you can do. So like
Mhm.
that whatever 5-10 bucks for delivery is worth it because your time is more valuable than that 5-10 bucks.
Yeah. And so kind of going off that, so right, I'm a big invest in gym equipment if you got the space, buy the stuff that you need. So right, let's say it's actually gonna be the same values before. So let's say an average gym membership, not Planet Fitness, is $30 a month. And to be honest, there's plenty of gym memberships that are way more expensive than that. I'm just
Mhm,
going very, very, very low.
mhm,
At $30 a month, right? So that's $360 a year. Over 5 years, it's $1,800
mhm,
for $1,800. That's essentially what I pay for my own gym setup, where I have a squat rack, barbell, all the weights, power blocks. So I have all the dumbbell weights, a bench, a bike,
mhm.
a bunch of bands and resistant bands and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a heavy investment up front, but over time, and this stuff's going to last
Yeah.
longer because it's not getting beat up by 100 people a day.
100%. And I think the problem like that choice comes down to certainty,
Hmm.
right? What if someone is new to fitness and they're like, am I really gonna drop 1,800 bucks to like build a gym? What if I, you know, stop working out in 2 months? Then it's a waste of money,
Hmm.
right? Because they're not in it for the long game. But if they're like, oh, I can go to the gym for 2 months and like if I like try before you buy, right? Then if they quit, it's like they didn't really lose as much money. You know what I mean? They're
Hmm.
all 60 bucks in the hole or whatever the math is. So the I mean, you can look at like rehab and stuff the same way, right? It's, hey, I want to use my insurance. I want the $10 copay because like I'm not sure this is gonna work. So like I'd rather pay less money. And if it doesn't work, then like I chose right because I chose cheaper instead of you because you can go down. Okay. So if you had two options, right? You're going to pay $2,000 either way, right?
Hmm.
One of them, there's a 20% chance that it works. One of them, there's an 80% chance that it works. Which one are you going to pick?
Yeah,
Right.
everyone's going to pick 80% every time.
Right. So that's personalized care versus generic care. But the way that people look at it is like, hey, this is $10 a session versus like $300 a session, right? It's like there and there's no guarantee that one is going to guaranteed work. It's like, okay, most people, if they're not confident in the system, are going to choose the cheaper option because it's less risky,
Yep.
right? But if you're confident that one is going to triple your chances of getting better, all of a sudden it's worth the investment.
Yep. Oh yeah. So I want to going back to compounding interest because I want to show, like we talked about, people can work longer and things like that. So this investor.gov has a compounding interest calculator. Anyone can go on and use it. And so what I kind of put in here is that a monthly contribution of $583. Why 583? That's what allows you to max out your Roth IRA. Finance tip.
We are not.
Yeah, we are not financial people. Length of time in years 30, and the expected return is 10% on your money. Okay. So we calculate that in 30 years, you'll have 1.1 million. Okay. If you invested $583 over 30 years. Now,
you can be a millionaire.
Now, let's say you continue to be physically active, you do all the things, but because you were still physically active, you kept working, you enjoy what you do, so you work for 35 years as opposed to 30, right? And we calculate that, you're now at 1.8 million. Okay, actually, it's like 1.9. So, like, right, you're getting dangerous. If you work another year or two, you're gonna double it. There's a rule every 7 years your investment should double. But like, right, so that is huge value by just being physically active, so that you can do the things that will continue to allow you to grow financially.
100%. I mean, bringing it back to healthcare, right? Like the guy who paced me for my marathon was like easily 70, probably older.
Yeah, exactly.
And how long has he been doing that the right way? Because he can clearly still run marathons right? So he's been doing that for who knows how long. He is an expert at what he does, right? I'm sure he's hit bumps and bruises and challenges along the way, but he's still able to like do that. If he picked up running like at 50 versus 30, it could probably be a lot harder to continue to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, right, compounding interest. Next, and exercise.
The best time to start is yesterday, but today will work just fine.
Yes, there you go. One line. All right, done. I think that's good. You taking us out?
No. Thanks.